7. How many can you do? Can you spin those? Wow. Look at this. It's fine in there.
We just
What? A ball? Oh, look at this great crowd. Tom, should we test it? You and me? Make sure it's... Yeah, there we go. Come on, come on. You're the Nehemiah. You're the king's cupbearer. There we go. You want a piece of that pizza? Huh? Oh my. That looks good. I want a piece of that one, Callie. Do we have to make reservations?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You might need to cut them smaller pieces so that everybody can have a piece.
True.
Ooh, look at that. Oh, that is. Coles, what do you think of this little boy?
they're growing good.
Dr. Stark, I think
No, he's
you
great.
all did great.
Yeah,
deal.
absolutely.
Everybody here. But I do have a request for a few specific rules, okay?
How's the pizza? Good?
So first up, we have here Uncle John. Uncle John, could you stand up? Number 1. John proposed to Linda in a quaint French restaurant. Number 2. John was drum major for the Madison Scouts Drum and Bugle Corps in the summer after his freshman year of college. Okay, think about that one. Number 3. John was in Papua New Guinea looking for a place the family could serve as missionaries. While that was happening, Linda received the call for them to serve in Zaire, currently known as Congo. The lie.
No one's voting for number 3?
No one's voting for number 3. Is that the one?
No, the lie. I was drum major, but it was just in a high school band.
We missed it.
Is number 1. Aunt Linda was a starting player on a Canadian college basketball team. Number 2. Aunt Linda was accused of spying and was nearly thrown out of Zaire for befriending 2 German pilots. Number 3. Aunt Linda is eagerly looking forward to getting back to the U.S. for her favorite DQ, which I believe stands for Dairy Queen, treat, the banana split. Okay.
Yeah, I think Cheryl knew it. It's peanut butter parfait.
So you're not a banana split person.
Well, I am, but that's not my favorite.
Aunt Rita will be turning 60 this month. Number 2. Aunt Rita used to attend a Catholic high school by which she went to school being pushed in a shopping cart. Okay? All right, that's number 2. Number 3. Aunt Rita was once chased by 5 police cars. She refused to stop for them and then they spiked 3 of her tires and handcuffed her. Can you tell us which one is the lie? It's number 1.
What was it? What was the number one?
Kata keki tukule sasa. Kata keki tukule sasa. Kata keki tukule sasa. Kata keki. Kata keki. Kata keki tukule sasa. Kata keki. Kata keki. Kata keki tukule sasa. There's another verse.
Of your presence with us and all the ways that you have ministered to so many families here, and to our families and to other families as well.
Yeah, butterfly. Good. Now, what are these? Oh,
Frisbee.
wow. Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you. I love that. Yeah. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you, guys. Wow, what is this? I love it. That is perfect. You know I don't own one, so this will be perfect. Yeah, thank you.
How can I pray for you today? And you're just very caring and so loving to all of our Kenyan friends, and I've just loved how you've been so sweet to our boys and just your fun sense of humor. We love it. You kept us, and you guys were a year and a half ahead of us, I think, and so it's just been neat that we've been here about the same time, and so grateful for you guys. And I remember when I first came here, I would look out and Linda would be out on the front porch ministering to women, and it was just such a sweet sight to see. And so I had a lot of little kids, and so I didn't feel like I could do much, but I prayed for those women and prayed for Linda, and that was really special to feel part of a new birth of Tabitha that we didn't even know was gonna happen and what all's gone forth. And so I'm just really grateful, and just for your wisdom and your sacrifices. You guys have sacrificed a lot. We've seen that over the years, your faithfulness and your commitment, and just your wise leadership and steadfastness. You've just been rock solid through every crisis and every event, and you've just stayed the course. And most of all, you can tell the fruit, and you're seeing the fruit now of your labor, and you're abiding in Christ. And that's what I love seeing, is the abiding in Christ. And so I'm really grateful for you guys, and we're going to miss you. We're really going to miss you in so many ways, of just ways you have carried our field and carried Tenwick in a lot of ways we don't even know about. And so thank you. Yeah.
If it wasn't for those two, because they stood behind me and encouraged me, and I just thank God for them.
You know, no matter how your day is going. Our boys, something clicked in our boys when Rita came up and they were playing badminton for PE, maybe? And you already mentioned this? Oh. And Rita comes up and asks if she can play. And our boys, you know, they're not too gracious to let other people win. And Rita comes in and smacks them across that court. And Nate's respect for Rita went up.
Yeah.
But I've always appreciated, and I've said this before, anytime John mentions what he's reading or even experiences, Kenya, things like that, I've always paid attention. I've always got some of the best books that I've read were ones that you've recommended. And so I really appreciate that. That's been something special for me over the years. Linda, thanks for just being a great friend to Jenny. I mean, not a week goes by that she's grateful for your help and your wisdom along the way. So thank you.
For so many people, and you host parties for people who it might be easy for folks to forget that they deserve a party and they deserve celebrations, and so that's really cool. I really appreciate that, and it's a good model and reminder of how to that side of celebrating recovery, just celebrating people in general and their accomplishments and their lives. I think that's amazing. So thank you for that example. We had John and Linda as our mentors, and they've been crazy meaningful to Moselle and me. And so the first year that we were here, there were some discouragements along the way, but I've been always so impressed at both of your ability to be encouragers, and I see that in your own relationship. I see in those moments when John's feeling the weight of something and mentioning that, and Linda, you being able to point out the accomplishments in the middle of that, point out how far you've come, all of those little things that they're not platitudes, they're truths, and they're true encouragements. And so I appreciate that, and we've been able to be on the receiving end of that so much from both of you, and that really energized us. Not even mentioning all the information and constant questions that we had for you, but that encouragement was so meaningful for us that first year especially.
Instead, I was sick a lot of the time, just went to bed right after work. But by the time I'd recovered, I think the most fun I've had at 10 weeks so far was the night having dinner at your house. It was totally impromptu, and I brought a couple of friends along. There was not a beat missed, and so it had such a rare ability to create something like that, Rita. And I look forward to your return. And we did some interviews today, and we interviewed some interns who had been at Tenwick and then gone into other hospitals, coming back for interviewing for MO. And the HR director said, and how's your experience been in the other hospital? I said, oh, it doesn't compare at all. The quality of the care is so different. And I think that's a culture that was set in place by people who have been here for the long haul, since long before, certainly, us newbies arrived, but it's that steadfast presence. So it was very encouraging to hear all those things about Tenwick today.
When I was homeless, literally as a missionary, John, through different connections, said, come visit, let's see, we may have a place for you here. At the time he was thinking to have me help with the renal unit. That wasn't what God had. I'm just so grateful, and I've said this to them before, and I love the security part of what Jenny was saying too, the thought of knowing that they're beside, when the car's there, I'm like, oh, I'm safe. If something happens, I know that, and it's just been comforting, and you guys were there guiding me how to figure out what it's like to live at Tenwick. Linda was guiding me like different things, like with keys and all the little things in life, but also if I always knew that, even though I didn't call you a lot if I needed something, but I knew that I could, and I needed to have a friend stay at their house. They allowed that to happen, and I'm gonna miss having you next door.
Tell us your story and how the Lord led you to the mission field where you have served.
And I was involved with fellowship at the university, and we got to meet all kinds of Africans and many different cultures. Well, my brothers-in-laws had served here in different capacities. My brother's mother-in-law was the guest house hostess, and my brother's father-in-law did carpentry work for the school. And so they had always talked about it, and Africa was so much my heart. So I came the first time in 1987 for 3 weeks and fell in love with it. But my mom was not well, so I moved back home, took care of her, and then when she went to heaven, I got to come and serve here. So I thank God.
Experiences were on short-term mission trips where you saw people living out their faith 24/7. So I always had a soft place in my heart for mission. I began to admire a elderly missionary doctor who served in India during those years. And so I always sort of kept looking for a place that I could do missions. During college, I spent a summer at a African-American ministry in the South where I realized that medicine was a way of doing cross-cultural missions. And so that's when I actually decided to go into medicine. And then I visited India right before medical school, and that was where I really experienced sort of a community health focus and found that to be very admirable. Had a little bit of a step aside when I had the fear that I would be poor if I was a missionary, not realizing how much God provides for us. And so I got into preventive medicine, and when I had my first job as an occupational physician, I was confronted by a passage in Matthew chapter 9 where it says that those who are well are not those who need a physician, but those who are sick. And so I felt the Lord calling me to go work with a sicker population. And I decided the mission field was the place to do that. And I decided I needed a missionary partner. And about that time I was introduced to Linda. And so I came and visited Linda in Congo, and that's where we got engaged in 1991. And didn't take us very long to get married. And about the time Linda was pregnant with twins, when I figured it was the right time for homing instincts, she said, "What are we going to do about that thought about going to the mission field?" And so we began to look for ways to go, even though it included a side trip to Papua New Guinea. And we decided to go back and serve where Linda had been a missionary for 10 years. And it's time for you to take over.
It's a miracle of God saving him from me. Anyway, I grew up in a Christian home, so it's different than him. He didn't. And we had missionaries in our home a lot. I loved listening to them. I loved listening to the missionary presentations at church. And when I accepted Christ as a young girl and then went to camp, and at camp we'd have a missionary hour every day. And one missionary that our family actually supported in Japan was a speaker one week, and he just asked if we'd be willing to go anywhere God wanted us to when we got older. And I was 11, and I went forward, and I just thought, well, of course, I've already given him my life. I'm willing to go anywhere he wants. And so then that was kind of the start, and I just always had an interest in missions, and my grandma really breathed on that and talked to me a lot and prayed a lot. And eventually, when I did decide to go into missions, Mom and Dad said that they'd always prayed that one of the 6 of us would be a missionary, and had never told us that, but, so I blame them. They weren't real eager to see me go as a single, but I mean, they were supportive. So I went into nursing thinking that I could be used overseas. And then all the missionaries, nurses, always said, get a couple years experience and then come over. And that same missionary from Japan had said, it doesn't matter what you do as a profession, just learn to lead a Bible study. And that always stuck with me. And InterVarsity was really the main one at the university that helped me learn how to lead Bible studies. Although then I did go to seminary for a couple years too. So, yeah, I went to France to study French, then I went to tropical medicine in French in Belgium, and then got to Congo in 81, 82, and was there for 10 years. I went to teach nursing, but ended up in discipleship and administration. So then on one of my furloughs, one of our friends who had, she was in a discipleship program with me earlier, right after I got out of nursing, and she came and visited me in Congo. And she was in John's group, college career group or something. They dated for a while, it didn't work out. I think she was too old for him. So chose another older woman. And so anyway, So she kind of lined us up, and so I came home on HMA. We saw each other 3 times, then we wrote for 9 months, and he ended up coming out and asking me to marry him. So that was a miracle. So we're thankful.
Thank you guys. Thanks for
It's in Aberdare National Park and lots of buffaloes. Anyway, it was rainy. We were looking at all the different waterfalls. That was our goal. We got so stuck we couldn't move, and we were at a place where there was no phone network. And it was getting dark, and we thought, well, if we checked in, will they look for us, you know, and know that we're in here? We decided no, they probably wouldn't. And so we got out and walked, which you're not supposed to do there. And so we're walking along, and there's these, the sides of the road just go straight up, and then the forest. And so John's singing his Boy Scout songs that he sings when he wants to keep us walking, our family. We were, I don't know, probably singing some hymns or something too, because our rangers, you know, the ranger guy is ahead of us, and we said, all of a sudden it hit me, you know, what if an elephant comes from one end and a buffalo's in front of us? Where would we go? There's no way to clamber up. And he goes, so we asked him, what would we do? He goes, well, that's why you guys are singing and praying.
I'm not an Aberdare's ranger, I'm a Mount Kenya ranger. Over to the Lord that she didn't think Dad was going to make the ascent, and she just had to give it up, you know. And so the night we begin going up the mountain, I'm getting real dizzy. And so our guide walks up to me and says, your problem is you're too warm. He unzips my park and takes off the hood, and instead of smelling salts, he's using being cold. And so 15,000 feet up to about 18.4, just cold, you know. You look at the photos, and I've got this wind burn on my face, and my daughter says, Dad, you never looked older than that day. And, so we get to the top, and of course it was beautiful. And a few hours later, we get down to the base camp, and our guide says, well, just pack up, it's time to keep moving. And by this time I'm really wiped out, and I basically demanded a nap. Because I had a tent all set up, and so I get in there and I fall asleep, and I guess I was snoring pretty bad, because Julia says, you know, she heard the other campers saying, what is that wild animal? And so years later I got diagnosed with sleep apnea, but I guess that day I was a wild animal.
But you made it.
I
You
did.
did it.
Yes.
Maybe more than once. The one time that I remember most is you had just returned from the United States with one of your kids getting married, and we had returned with one of our kids getting married. And we watched each other's videos, and we just had so much fun just reliving and appreciating, you know, our kids. And you guys could appreciate what we were going through, and we could with you. And so that was a really neat memory for us.
Nice meals, and that you had toys to play with. Keep them happy. We could talk longer. Yeah. And you didn't mind that the toys were all over the place. We just pick them up after we're done, no big deal.
Yeah, I've
So
had
it was
more
enjoyable.
birthdays, in the past decade, I've had more birthdays in Kenya than in the States.
Wow.
And I would, just because Greece and retreat is always around my birthday, right? And we've always come to cover, so I've had more birthdays here. And I thought one was gonna be forgotten one time, but no, we went over to Spriggles and I had a really great dinner and had fun. And so, yeah, I really appreciate always remembering, always just kind of keeping us in mind on both sides of the ocean. So we like having dinner with you, and in Michigan, we're not far from you. So yeah, we'll definitely see you again. But yeah, we like having you as mentors, helpers on both sides. So thank you.
And there, and I just wish that you'd moved to Lower Compound sooner. Because I told the girls, I was like, you know, Rita's gonna be leaving like in a week or so, and so I feel like we're just getting to know you a little bit. So just thank you for opening your home. And
Well, I tell you, your kids have helped me a ton. Because I am not Miss Organization at all. If you come into my house, you start cleaning, you know, normally. And those little girls would organize the pots and pans and help me so much. I loved it. Yeah. Beyond my belief, the Lord's what he's done, and it's just because of prayer, a lot of prayer, and people are coming to the Lord. And of course, there's ups and downs. People fall, but we just tell them, keep coming back, don't give up, keep coming back. And we've got strong leaders that will carry it on. So I'm just really, really grateful.
You know, I heard
with us. They've just been, just even from day one, like, okay, well here, I'll watch your kids, and you go to this store, and you go to that store, you know, just those little shopping trips in Nairobi, but and then sharing your dog with us. Literally. And sharing, you know, just your home, so our kids could just feel like they could walk in anytime to your house and ask you to play a game, and you might say no, and that's fine, but they would ask. It was just, it's been just wonderful, just really, I don't know, I can't really describe it, but I'm just really thankful that the Lord had you be our official mentors and our unofficial mentors, and just good friends. Just,
I didn't get to meet you, but then when we found out you were going to be our mentors, I was actually quite terrified. But then I remember just like some of the communications you had with us as you came, like helping get our house set up. But just you really just cared for us so well, and our children, you know, truly consider you family. So.
Be willing to stay overnight with them.
Same poison, you know, and he accepted Christ in it. This is amazing because it's not me, it's God, you know. And so that was sort of cool. But over the years, he just kept lifting up people, you know. Years later, people say that we encouraged them or we empowered them or we spurred them on, but honestly, it's God putting people in the right place. You know, Sister Alice is in charge, and David Kunez, and different people to help with the leadership of the ward, and then different people with the right training. And then as I was beginning to feel led to get oncology and Remo going, we have people on their own deciding to go off and get the extra training we needed, even before we had a program for them to come back to, and then the extra training on different levels. Just sort of God has a progression of people he's been lifting up, and so that's sort of cool, definitely bigger than us. And so I would say that's sort of what has touched my life, is watching God lift up these people.
I was asking you to take this role. He says, well, we've got another internist on the line, you know. I mean, God was already getting Tony and Shola in the right place. So yeah, there's just every day, so it's really hard to choose this, you know, but when I first came here, I didn't really want to come to Tenwick. Most people know that because there were too many missionaries I had to get along with. But that's who I learned the most from. That's really all you guys I learned the most from. But so I just told the Lord, you know, give me a handful of ladies to study the Bible, and I'll be okay. And then it's just exploded, and we've had some time to reflect on some of that with some of the leaders and stuff, and it's just really amazing that it's gone. But one specific story just that recently was that I was telling you, Jenny, yesterday about, was this a guy from Pokot, that one of our leaders went up on a mission trip up to Pokot, and the team was from the Tenwick area, so they said, no, you need to come down to Tenwick